I am not freaking out about, oops. I'm not freaking out about this week's homework because it's bizarre.
I have been drawing dragons a lot, though.
Oh, yeah.
I'm drawing a lot of dragons. You do know my mom's second, right?
I do what?
You know my mom's second here a little bit ago?
No, did she?
Yeah.
I didn't even see
She's
her.
going to the bathroom.
That's funny. That is funny. Didn't even know. She didn't say hello to me.
No, she thought you were doing school.
Silly woman.
I think I can catch her. I don't think she's stuck out yet.
It's okay.
I don't know which type of dragon I want to draw. Because sea wings are terrifyingly hard. I've drawn plenty of night wings. Night wings are terrifying as well.
I shared an article about dragons just the other day. It was like it wasn't a dragon, but it's like a dragon-like creature. It's cool.
I like a certain types of dragons.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a Nightwing Icewing hybrid. This is a Starbeam.
I
Usually
shared
they
an
have
article.
White spots on a black wing.
Yeah,
But since it's an Icewing, and Icewings are completely white and blue.
that's
I
pretty.
did it black dots on a white wing.
Very cool. Yeah, I shared. Where is it? There's an article, so it's neat.
Oh,
Hey, honey. Here it is. Terrifying dragon was Australia's largest flying reptile. It was this thing here.
was it the largest one?
There was once a species. Well, hang on, let me. Here's my Zoom screen.
Oh, look at that.
Oop, not what I meant to do.
Oh. I do that when I watch a lot.
Oh, don't blind me, Drew.
I watch them forever. Oh my gosh, I drawn way too many dragons. It was the last day.
So it says it's a pterosaur of some sort. And it says there was once a species of terrifying dragon flying over Australia 105 million years ago. According to new research, the fossil of a pterosaur, nearly 30-foot, 7-meter wingspan, once belonged to Australia's largest flying reptile. Study of these findings published Monday in the Journal of Vertebrate Paleontology. Pterosaurs likely soared over a large inland sea that once covered much of outback Queensland. And then it talks about them, where they found it. It's the closest thing we have to a real life dragon. Also, the lead study author, in a statement, it was essentially just a skull with a long neck bolted to a pair of long wings. This thing would have been quite savage. It would have cast a shadow over some quivering little dinosaur, and it wouldn't have hurt it until it was too late. Ooh, that paints a picture.
How do they know it was so silent?
I guess they can tell by its wingspan and probably the position of the bones in its wings. It was probably similar to like today's raptors that are very silent. It says the species name Shawi honors the fossil dinosaur's discoverer Len Shaw, or Shawai, I guess, so the name means Shaw's spear mouth. The thing is cool. Look at that.
Is that the largest flying animal?
It was, no, I don't know if it was it said at the beginning that it was Australia's largest flying reptile. But cool looking, right? Yeah, it's a pterosaur of sort. It says semicircular in shape. Oh, wait. Researchers were intrigued by a massive bony crest, located on the lower jaw of the new species and believe there was likely one on the upper jaw too. Semicircular in shape, it would have resembled a 13-centimeter radius, half a dinner plate on its side. These crests probably played a role in flight dynamics of these creatures, and hopefully future research will deliver more definitive answers. The entire skull is over 3.2 feet or 1 meter. That's big.
Whoa.
Wait, whatever
What
that
the heck
was.
is
I
that?
don't know, pop-up ad.
Wait, look up. Wait, I don't know how to say this right. I think it's Pterosaurus.
Pterosaur. The P is quiet. It's still silent, sorry.
Pterosaur. What the heck is that?
That's what that is.
That's what this thing is?
It's a pterosaur, yeah. It's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the largest animal in the world. It's the largest flying animal.
There you go. Look at that thing. That's pretty cool. Anyway, Claire said the word dragon, and I was like, "Ooh, I just saw this neat article the other day about this thing. Look at that.
It doesn't look like dragon's eye now.
Look at that thing. Like it doesn't have any little front feet. See, its little fingers are over here. So, like, when we get talking about, we're going to talk about fossil evidence and stuff in several weeks, and we'll bring up things like that, analogous and homologous features. That's an example, like where your hands are. Like if you look at a bat's wings and compare them to like a human hand or a whale fin, there are certain bone structures that you'll find are quite similar. Okay, well, we've got Sky. We're still waiting on the another one. The Armstrong kiddos are not here today, so Lewis and Darcy are out, but there's Lewis. Hey. Lewis is joining us via Zoom this morning. Oh, that's funny because this says Lewis, but that's clearly Lewis. It's fun. All righty. I'm gonna squish this screen down at the bottom, I think. And then I will get back over here. All right, so why don't we give it a minute for Sky to get in and whoever else. Who else are we missing? Are we missing anybody else? Oh yeah, Annabella. And I think that's it, Annabella and Sky. And we may be getting, I had a new girl who was interested, and then I also had a boy that I heard from. So that's 2, like just in the last week or 2. I don't know, everybody's kind of scrambling. Whatever, so. All right. I'll turn my camera on so they can see me. Hey.
I'm like so interested in messing up this sticky note.
I don't know. It looks like you've made it into something.
I'm trying to turn it into an origami crane.
I did that once. I actually did I directed a play when I was working at the school where I used to work, and the kids picked from a couple options that we had, and one of them was a play called 1,000 Cranes, and it's a real life story.
Is that the girl who lived in Japan?
Yeah. Lived in Japan, and during the time when we dropped the atomic bomb, she was in Hiroshima, and she died of cancer years later, but she had there was a thing with origami cranes because cranes symbolize lots of different things in Japan. So anyway, when they buried her with like all these paper cranes. It was pretty cool.
I think it was if you make 1,000 paper cranes, you get one wish.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I can't remember, even though I directed the thing. It's been years, but so anyway, it was really cool.
No, I'm tearing the sticky note.
That's all right. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start. So today, hey Darcy.
Hi.
Today we're talking about cellular structure and function. So first things first, we had oops, where'd that go? Where's my next slide? Here's my other slide. I had a slide about my glitch in the matrix. Did I put it in the wrong lesson? Hold up. I may have stuck it in the other one. So we had a glitch in our matrix for real. Apparently more than one glitch, which is that the lab 5. We'll wait till after class and we'll do whatever we got to do. So we had a little glitch in our matrix, didn't we? For whatever reason, here we go. That was the issue. We have a little glitch in our matrix, and for whatever reason, the file upload download situation for this homework assignment in Teacher Read was completely wonky. Poor Colson tried to get it to work for like 3 days. Then Lily couldn't make it work. Then I took Drew's out because Drew had done it. And I took what Drew had done and I saved it. At least it said I saved it. And then, hey, Sky. And then that was apparently a giant fail because it didn't save. And we had to, I was like, you know what? Why don't you sit down next to me and I will retype for you. You tell me what you wrote because we lost the whole thing and had to start over. But basically, if you managed to get the homework in, I'm going to count it. If you didn't get it in, I'm just going to excuse it because there was a major glitch issue. But here's what we came up with. So the homework assignment, there are actually 2, and I don't know how the other one was there, but I deleted it. It's nowhere in my grade book, so I don't know why it's in yours. So there was a weird lesson 5 glitch. So don't worry about lesson 5 homework. If you haven't already done it, just let it go. It's a wash.
I didn't, but I couldn't get it done.
Yeah, it's okay. A lot of people.
Hey, I did that.
Yeah, it was, I can't explain. I truly cannot explain why it did what it did because I've never had that issue before and it was very, very weird. So what we're going to do here is we are going to look real quick at this one. The homework, you already did it.
Yeah.
You turned yours in, I have yours.
Yeah.
So you're going to get credit. Okay. I'm just not going to ding people who couldn't get it in because it was like a major issue.
Yeah, I was like, my mom's there.
I know your mom's texting me and I'm like, okay, first Colson's mom and then Drew. And I thought maybe it's just a thing. And then when you came in, I was like, nope, I know this is a real problem. It's the third person. So this is what the assignment was supposed to be. So it said, imagine that you're a biologist working in the field, searching out new species. You have just stumbled upon this strange creature never before seen. Examine the creature carefully and based on your observations and knowledge of scientific classification, sense of logic and imagination, classify it. So this actually got to be fun. So what I did is I've combined the answers from the assignments I did get just to show you guys what we came up with as a group. Because it was really interesting. So everybody pretty much agreed that this is going to belong to domain eukarya. And why? Everybody had the same answer. It's not a bacteria, it's not an archaea, and it probably has a nucleus, right? Because it's multicellular, right? And that was part of the next thing. Everybody agreed this belongs to Animalia. It's not a fungus, it's not a plant, right? It's not a bacteria.
I saw it kind of as a plant because of its tail.
Oh, a tail!
I've heard.
Maybe it could have been. You were thinking way outside the box. We were saying, it's multi-celled. It's not a producer. Doesn't appear to be a producer because it has teeth. So it obviously eats things, right? So then when we got to phylum, okay, chordata, everybody agreed on this one. Do you guys remember from last week? I know I talked about it with the other group. I think I talked about it with you guys about chordata versus vertebrates and invertebrates. Do you remember? So a lot of people want to go ahead and classify animals as vertebrates or invertebrates, but that's not what we do. We classify as chordates, which is whether or not there is a central nerve cord. And the reason we don't go vertebrate invertebrate is because sharks, skates, and rays do have a central nerve cord, but they don't have a spine because they don't have bones. They're cartilage, right? Sharks are all cartilage. So there's no true spine. So we don't say vertebrate or invertebrate. We say chordate, meaning it has a central nerve cord. Everybody agreed, okay, this thing's a chordate. And the class was pretty much everybody agreed it looks like it's a mammal. I mean, everybody came back and said, okay, yeah, it's got, and why are we thinking it's a mammal? Well, we're thinking it's probably a mammal because look at that. It's got hair back here on its legs and stuff. So it has hair. It probably gives live birth. These were good guesses. And it starts to diverge here. And it would, as you get more and more specific, our answers started to diverge. And it's pretty interesting. So what order? This was the last one everybody agreed on. Everybody agreed this was a carnivore. And everybody gave pretty much the same reasons. Its teeth. It looks like a meat eater, right? It's got these little sharp looking teeth in there. So yeah, this. And its eyes, it's a good one too, Drew. Yeah, its eyes are on the front of its head. So it's very likely going to be a predator, right? Because predators look straight ahead and prey have their eyes. Think about bunny rabbits, right? Their eyes are over here on the sides of their head. A wolf looks straight ahead.
Hamster's prey.
Huh?
My hamster's prey.
Your hamster's prey. Yeah. There you go. Pray for your cat. All right. So here's where it gets interesting. So what family does this belong to? So we had 2 different answers for this one. Some of you guys said, hello, I'm clicking. There we go. Canidae, and the other said Felidae. Okay, so Canidae, does anybody know what that is? No, not carnivore. What we're talking about family now.
It's like, wasn't wolves?
Wolves, and what else? Do you remember?
Hyenas.
Oh yeah, that was one more down. Yep, that was one more down. So Canidae is basically like the dog animals, right? These are wolves, foxes, hyenas, right? Things like this that are dogs, right? And then Felidae, what does that look like? Feline.
I did that because it looked like a lion.
It does kind of have some cat-like characteristics. So that's what we're told. It looks like a wolf or a dog. And then also looks kind of like a cat with its facial structure, right? So this is where you guys kind of started to diverge. And this is great because this means we're thinking outside the box, and I love it. So genus, we get all the way down to genus. All right, we had 3 options. 1 fictional, and it said be imaginative, right? We had 1 fictional and 2 true genus. So this one, does anybody know what this one is? Lycon. So this was the one you picked, Lily. So this is like wild dogs, hyenas. Like you can maybe sort of see the lichen in there. Lichen being another like a werewolf term. Sometimes you see lichen for werewolf spelled with a Y, not spelled L-I-C-H-E-N, like the moss and algae symbiosis thing. And then we had, I think it's Acynonyx. I'm not sure. Does anybody know what Acynonyx is? This came from feline. So this is the ones that are like leopards, jaguars, these sort of things. And then this one is a made up one. Does anybody see anything in there that looks like something they recognize?
Oh, yeah, that was me.
Yeah, that was you. Do you want to explain it?
So it's Spanish. So it's a mix of Spanish words combined with 1 English word. It was Kardashian.
Center.
Kardashian Tarpero, which means Kardashian spined dog.
Or waist. I thought it was waist. Yeah.
Waist dog.
Kardashian waisted, like a waist, your waist, dog, pero, right? And this is because, okay, lichen similar to African wild dog.
Look at its spine.
The cat one, we're saying long tail, slender body, pointy ears. And then this one, it's got a Kardashian waist, he said. And I think, Drew, that's not observation, but it's pretty accurate. It does kind of have a waist like a Kardashian. So what is the species called? We came up with gargoyle, which is a good one. It does really look like a gargoyle. Dathingy. I really like Dathingy because Dathingy is pretty accurate. And then lastly, it was Virgin rainforest. Why rainforest? Because its tail acts like a canopy in this case. And then because it's Dathingy, I got to agree. And it does look like a gargoyle. So these were all really good answers. I love these. The ears, I know, for real, it does. I love gargoyles, by the way. I love it when you see like old cathedrals with gargoyles up on them. What you got, Darcy?
My mom probably hasn't sent it in yet by text because she couldn't really figure out.
Yeah.
But I called it. It kind of looked like a griffin with its claws to me, so I called it Griffo-squirrel.
Griff-a-squirrel. Yeah, that's good too because the tail, right? And it
squirrels on
does
its back.
kind of look like a griffin. You're right.
There's squirrels on its back.
I agree. That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. All right, so I'm gonna squish this over there. Whoops, no, that's not what I meant to do. Over here. So this was kind of fun if you managed to get it to go in. If you didn't, that's it is what it is.
You kind of stressed over
So
it.
now we're looking at, I know, and it was being really weird, and I wish I understood why, but it was truly not being helpful. So cell discovery, let's do cell discovery. So first and foremost, let's talk about the people who did the discovering. So we have this dude, whoop, I bumped that. First we have this dude named Robert Hooke. Doesn't he look happy? Look at him. This is the happiest scientist in history. See how joyful and gleeful his expression is? He loves his job. I don't know what, it does look like Weird Al Yankovic. You are right. I don't know what Robert Hooke's problem is, but I think he needs a vacation.
Excited to be there.
Right.
He looks like an ant with those fingers.
Yeah.
Maybe his face got frozen.
Yeah, maybe his face got frozen.
He looks like claymation.
He probably had some disease because everybody
He's a
did.
Weird Al Yankovic claymation.
So anyway, all right, Drew. So 1665, we had Robert Hooke, and he took a very, very thin slice of cork, like the kind you see in like a wine bottle. And he put it under a microscope and he saw these chambers that he called cells. So the first cells looked at under a microscope are plant cells, which of course are going to have a rigid cell wall. And he saw that and he called them cells. Why? Because what do they look like? Yeah, they look like jail cells, don't they? They look like cells. Yep, that's exactly where he got that idea. Yeah, so when you're talking about cells in science, that's because this dude said, oh, those look like places to lock up prisoners. That's fun. So next we had, anybody want to try his name? I like his name. Anybody want to try his name? You want to try it, Darcy?
Anton
Go ahead, Darcy's trying.
Anton van Leeuwenhoek.
Very close. So this is one of those dudes where you got the weird W that's an F. So he's Anton van Leeuwenhoek. And this guy put little drops of water under a microscope and was able to see some living things moving around there. So he was the first one to see living things that weren't just like individual cells that were part of one big piece of plant tissue. He saw little individual organisms.
He looks like he's been posing for that picture for way too long.
He probably did. So if y'all have noticed my microscope lamp over there, that microscope lamp is about 1890. This one here, that lamp is about 1890. So this is 1674. So what he is looking with is far less sophisticated. So no electricity. He's using a mirror to bounce light back, right? That's what we're dealing with at this point in time. All right, so the next guy was this dude, Matthias Scheindlin, and he said all plants are made of cells. Okay, well, that's fair. So that's our first part of coming up with building cell theory, where we say all living things are made of cells. He started with all plants are made of cells. Now this guy's special, I'm gonna tell you why. You remember the term polymath? Does anybody remember that term, or have you heard it before? What's a polymath? It's in one of the Hamilton songs, so a lot of people hear it from that.
Selma was here.
Yeah, she would know. So a good example of a polymath is somebody like Benjamin Franklin. A polymath is somebody who is very well educated or experienced in multiple diverse fields, right? So somebody who is good at writing and language, but also science, but also inventing. And a lot of these early scientists were wealthy dudes that had time on their hands because they had money and they didn't have to go out and work a lot. So they were wealthy dudes who could spend their time doing whatever they felt like doing. So he says, oh, all plants are made of cells. And also this guy, now here we get to the ultimate. These guys were contemporaries, right? 1839, 1838. All right. So here's your ultimate in polymath, Thomas Schwann. Okay. Animals are made of cells, he says. And then he invented the first rebreather. So rebreather is like an apparatus you would use if you had to go into an environment where the air was not safe. So you ready? You ready? You ready? This is why I like people like this. This is why I love old scientists, because they had a lot of these guys, like I said, time and money. This is what this dude invented in his spare time. Check out that piece of stuff. I mean, for real. And yeah, so it looks so comfortable and functional, but yeah, he invented this thing. He could pop on his back and rebreathe his own air so that he wasn't
so comfortable.
So that he, could get some non-contaminated air. Now, sooner or later, this wouldn't work. You rebreathe your own air long enough, it's going to get a little carbon dioxide saturated. You're going to get a bit dizzy. But that's pretty cool. And then we had Rudolf Virchow, who said all cells come from existing cells. Now, this is a big deal because we had the whole spontaneous generation concept, right? About how life only comes from life. But prior to that, it was like anything might be able to produce living things. So those were early microscopes. Now, in time, we've come to invent some really great pieces of equipment. So this giant thing, this massive, massive thing is one microscope. Look at the size of that. That is an electron microscope. So
huge.
Yep. So a scanning electron microscope, which they call an SEM, is a type of electron microscope that produces images of a sample by scanning the surface with a focused beam of electrons. The electrons interact with atoms in the sample, producing various signals that contain information about the surface topography. Now, topography is like if you've ever seen a topographical map, it's the kind with like a bunch of different circles that show you how tall things are, how low pieces of land are, how high things are. So, and the composition of the sample. The electron beam is scanned in a raster scan pattern. That's just the way they're scanning it. And the position of the beam is combined with intensity of the detected signal to produce an image. The most common SEM mode is secondary electrons emitted by atoms, exited by the electron beam, and they're detected using a secondary electron detector. So it gets really complicated. But some SEMs can achieve resolutions better than 1 nanometer. That is itty bitty. And specimens observed in high vacuum in a conventional SEM or low vacuum wet conditions variable. So you can do wet samples and dry samples, but see these little individual cells? All of those are actual, that's an actual photograph. That's not computer graphic. That's an actual photograph from an electron microscope of individual cells. Do you see that, Claire, Lil? It's pretty darn cool that they can get pictures that tiny. So then we get to our cell theory.
A bit.
Now this is our big deal to remember. This is one of those, remember sometimes I'll tell you there are certain things to commit to memory forever for the rest of your life. This is one. Okay, so underline it, circle it, memorize it. Cell theory, big one. All living things are composed of cells. Cells are the basic unit of structure and function for all living things, and new cells come from existing cells. So all things are made of cells. Cells are your basic building block, and cells come from other cells. They don't come from nowhere. And this is forever knowledge, right? Not just for biology class. Yes, Drew?
Wouldn't that prove that there's life outside of Earth?
What do you mean, how?
Because we're obviously living things on Earth, and that obviously came from somewhere when Earth was being
So now we get to the cells come from other cells. So when we get down to like origin stuff, we'll talk about that a little more. But cells come from cells, so there had to be something, you're right, that wasn't a cell in the beginning, or that the cell came from somewhere else, not Earth. That's a good question. So there definitely are extraterrestrial theories. There are lots of them. There are all kinds of theories. So we have our main big types of cells. Okay, we have prokaryotes and eukaryotes. So what are you? Are you prokaryotic organism or a eukaryotic organism? Which one, Drew?
I don't know.
Which one, prokaryotic or eukaryotic? What are you? Yes, you're eukaryote, I'm a eukaryote, we're all eukaryotes, right? Why are we eukaryotes? Why are we eukaryotes? How do you know? What do we have? Think about it. What's the difference between a prokaryote and a eukaryote? Eukaryotes have a membrane around their nucleus, right? Their nucleus and all of their nuclear contents are inside a nice little organized envelope. That's not the case with prokaryotes. So where would you find prokaryotes? Do you know? A lot of them, would you see a prokaryote walking around? No, it's even smaller than a plant. So prokaryotes are always small and simple, single-celled, and a lot of them live in really extreme conditions like archaea stuff. We used to call archaebacteria, but archaea live in like those little ocean floor vents that are super hot and full of sulfur or whatever. Extreme conditions.
Water bear.
Yep. But the similarities is they all have a membrane, right? They have cytoplasm, they have ribosomes, and they have DNA. But as you can see, if you look at this eukaryotic cell, all that DNA and stuff is organized inside the nucleus. It's nice and pretty, but over here in the prokaryote, like you just have this kind of garble of DNA in the middle. And it's a circular loop, actually, where it's not the case in eukaryotes. It's much better organized. So if we look inside cells, now here we're going to get into our organelles. I love cell organelles. They're fun. See my t-shirt? I'm wearing, look at my t-shirt. I have a cell on today. You ever notice that I was wearing a cell? It's cool. All right, so all cells have cell membranes, prokaryotes and eukaryotes. So here's a cool thing about cell membranes. If you were in chemistry last year, you may remember we talked about polar and non-polar molecules. And that has to do with whether one end of the molecule has a positive or negative charge or whether there's a balance. Well,
Probably the hardest one you've done.
what ones? Last year was chemistry was hard. Yeah, chemistry's tricky. Yeah. So when you get into plasma membrane, so this is another word for cell membrane, you can call it a plasma membrane. It's actually composed of a phospholipid bilayer. So lipids are like fats and oils, and you eat lipids every day, but all of your cells are composed of lipids. And each of these lipids has like a head and a tail, if you think about the molecule. So they draw it out, make it a pretty basic shape here with a head and a tail. But these heads are attracted to each other and these tails repel each other. So do you see how in this case we have all of these little heads on the outside and all of the little tails form in the middle? Can y'all see that? Lily and Claire, you see it? Drew, you see it? So the reason this works so well is because all this stuff on the outside, that is the part that is non-polar, which means it doesn't mix with water because water is polar, right? So it's like oil and water, basically. This will not mix. It will always separate from water. But in the middle, it likes water. So you've got an outside, two outside layers that don't like water and an inside layer that does like water. And that allows for some really special stuff to go on. So it's going to be thin and it's flexible. It protects the cell. All cells have it. And it's so the phospholipid bilayer here is a universal component of all cell membranes. Its role is critical because its structural components provide the barrier that marks the boundaries of a cell. Structure is called a lipid bilayer because it's composed of two layers of fat cells organized in two sheets. And they go head, tail, like this, all the way down, packed nice and tight. And we'll say it's selectively permeable. Well, last week, when you did your lab, what did you guys find? When you looked at your lab data, what did you see? What happened with your bag of cytoplasm with the cell? Drew, what happened?
Nothing.
Nothing happened? Did you look at your pictures?
Nothing happened with ours.
Yeah, it did. They all did the same thing. They all had the same.
Yes, Drew, they
Yeah,
did.
what'd you get, Darcy?
Ours is like the smallest though.
They turn blue.
They turned blue, right? So
Yes, they
basically,
did.
that cell membrane that we modeled, which was a bag, right? Just a sandwich bag, allowed the iodine molecules to go in and affect the starch, and the starch changed color because the iodine, changes color in the presence of starch. But it didn't allow the starch out because it was sitting in an iodine solution, right? And that solution did not change color. So that's what selectively permeable means. And we'll talk more about it, but if you look at this model of this membrane, you see these little chunky things sticking in and out. These are different proteins. And it's just like, these are like exit points and gates. And some of them require energy and some of them don't. It's really amazing. So your cytoplasm is inside your cell. And this is like that last week, it was the starch basically that we put inside of our bag that was representing cytoplasm. So it's a liquidy stuff, and it's what all of the other parts of the cell, it's the medium that all the other parts of the cell are in. So here's a cell wall. If you have a plant, you also have a cell wall. So you're going to have your cell membrane down here. It is down here again, all those little heads and tails, right? But then you'll also have this structure on the outside. And this structure is going to be composed of cellulose microfibrils and pectin. And it's going to combine it all together, and it's going to make a rigid cell wall, because we know plants have a rigid cell wall, right? They're like little boxes. So let me ask you this. Does anybody know what is kind of the common word for cellulose? What do we call cellulose when we're talking about food? Do you know? It's fiber. You ever hear anybody say, oh, you need a high fiber diet, or this has a lot of fiber? That's cell wall. That's all it is cell walls. So when you're talking about fiber, you're talking about cell walls. So maybe something that has a lot of cell walls. And pectin right here, these little things, it's kind of like collagen is to animals. So collagen in animals, if you ever make chicken stock and you let it cool down, you get this jelly on the top. That is the collagen. That's also what makes up your nails and your hair have collagen, and your skin has collagen. It's like a stretchy jelly-like substance. Well, pectin is the plant version of that. And pectin's actually, we use it in manufacturing when we're talking about jams and jellies. It's pectin. Actually, if you've ever studied Anne Frank's dad worked at the pectin factory, basically. That's what he did. So cell walls are found in many organisms, including plants, algae, fungi, and nearly all prokaryotes, not found in animal cells. And it's outside the cell membrane. And these are about structure and function. So here's a nucleus. So almost all eukaryotic cells, including plants and animals, have a nucleus. Prokaryotes do not have a nucleus. They have the stuff that's in the nucleus, but it's not contained. So this is where your DNA is housed. Now inside the nucleus, you have another little thing, even smaller, like the bullseye here, and that's your nucleolus. And this is where ribosomes are made, and we'll talk about ribosomes in a minute. And then this little membrane that holds the nucleus together, we can call it the nuclear membrane or the nuclear envelope. And this is what prokaryotes don't have, right? So organelles, what are organelles? I love this. Organelles is a great word. It literally means little organs. Oh, because cells have little organs. Just like you have organs that do different things in your body, cells have them. So vacuoles. Vacuoles are like these bubbles, basically, but they're full of water usually. And there's different kinds of vacuoles. Plants have a big central vacuole, and it's really important, and I'll tell you why, because it's super cool. And protists, some little individual cellular organisms, protists have contractile vacuoles that can actually take water in and out, and that can help them maintain like their homeostasis between inside and outside, does all kinds of things. And then there are food vacuoles. This is a great word. Anybody see this word right here? This word is phagocytosis. And phagocytosis is, okay, do you know what Pac-Man looks like? You guys are young, but do you know what Pac-Man looks like?
Yes.
He does this, right? Okay. So there are some vacuoles that use the process of phagocytosis. And then there are also some entire cells that do it, especially immune cells. And here's why it's cool. So say this is a little blob of food and it's floating around, and you have this vacuole here and it's a food vacuole. It will change its shape like Pac-Man, wrap all the way around it and take it in. It's really cool. So that's how food vacuoles work. And those are especially important in certain like single-celled organisms. And then also, like I said, you have entire cells, immune cells that do that. And then you have these lysosomes down here, and lysosomes are important because they are involved in the process of breaking down the worn out parts of your cell, like kind of replenishing your cell, but also cell death, and also killing things like viruses and bacteria. So lysosomes are kind of like the security force inside your cells. That's what they do. And there's a process called apoptosis, which is the word for cell death. So cells don't live forever, right? You're constantly replacing your cells. It happens rapidly. You just don't know it's happening, but it's happening rapidly in your body right now. If you didn't do that, if your cells didn't die and they just continued to divide, but none of them died out, that's the basis of cancer. So when people talk about, somebody has cancer, that's what that is. It's cells that don't die, that keep dividing rapidly when they shouldn't be.
Oh, that's not
Yeah, right? Not at all. So you also have, when we go into the storage, cleanup, and support, we have this cytoskeleton. Okay, so you don't see the cytoskeleton except during cell division. And you don't see the centrioles, which are part of that process, except during cell division. So the centrioles are these little barrel-shaped things, and they send out it's almost like a web. It's almost like, how Spider-Man shoots his web? Yeah. They're like that, but it's all inside the cells. And there are these little fibers that keep the structure of the cell. You can think about like an Afghan blanket or a knit blanket. Like it has a shape, right? That blanket has a shape, whatever it's been knit, like if it's a square, a rectangle, or whatever, but it's also flexible. That's how these guys work. That's how cytoskeleton microfibrils and things like that function. And then your centrioles are what produce them. And when your cell comes to dividing, the centrioles become very visible and everything becomes very concentrated around them. And you can actually see the cytoskeleton at work, which is pretty cool. So this part is the important part for basically a cell doing what it's meant to do. So protein building. So we have what's called the ER, the endoplasmic reticulum. And we have a rough ER and a smooth ER. And if you look at this picture, you can see like right here, See how there's like no little bumpies on these guys, but these guys have bumpies. So this is the rough endoplasmic reticulum because it has little bumps on it, and the smooth has no bumps on it. The bumps are ribosomes. So what are ribosomes? This is a ribosome. So you have to picture this. You have a tiny cell, and inside the cell, you've got a nucleus, and then attached to it is this stuff here. These are ribosomes. They're like, it's almost like stacks of tunnels, all right? And they're all piled in. Are you girls okay over there?
Yeah.
Okay, they're all piled in and packed in there together. And then they have these little tiny, it's almost like a little tiny room, okay? And this ribosome is where you are going to actually build the proteins that produce everything else. So Claire, what color are your eyes?
They change every day.
But they're
My mom
bluish.
says they change.
They're bluish, yeah. Yeah, Michael's the outcast in your family, right? He's the only one that's not the same, right? Doesn't everybody have blue eyes except Michael?
Dad has blue eyes.
Yeah, no, I mean, everybody has blue eyes except Michael, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, your dad might have brown eyes. Yeah, does he or blue? I don't know. I know Michael's got brown eyes and everybody else in your family has blue eyes. Okay, so anyway, that's because somewhere in your ribosomes, Claire, there is a code for blue. And we'll talk about this in a couple of weeks. We're going to do a lab about it, and it's really fun. But it's in a ribosome where your mRNA part, which is coded from your DNA, is going to go in and it's going to produce the protein that actually makes the color blue. And that's the same with everything. Hair color, eye color.
Testing.
Oh, last week's lab was fun. This week's lab is going to be fun too. And last week's lab, you can actually, that's one you can do at home easy. Like I can even give you the stuff if you need it, but you could probably even fake it. So protein builders, Golgi apparatus. This is a fun word. Golgi apparatus looks like a stack of pancakes, people say, and it kind of does, right? So complex vesicles, folded membranes within the cytoplasm. And basically these guys are responsible for sorting. So you can think of this as like, this is like the post office or the mail room. So your ribosomes are producing proteins, right? And your lysosomes are sending out chemicals that are supposed to destroy or clean up certain worn out parts of the cell. And they're just spitting it into the cytoplasm. And these guys are grabbing everything up. And just like, you know, at the Amazon warehouse, they're going, this goes here, that goes there. And they're sorting where everything needs to go, which is pretty cool when you think about it. Like there's no brain here. This is all done on a chemical level. All that sorting is done on a chemical level. Just really neat. What? Missed one. Okay, these are important. Mitochondria and chloroplasts. In plants, you're gonna have chloroplasts, okay? And we're gonna do some, a lab today is gonna talk about chloroplasts. A chlorophyll is a pigment inside the chloroplasts. And your chloroplasts, this is a graphic of one, but in it are these things called thylakoids. And don't they look like little stacks of like chips, like poker chips or checkers, right? And it's within the thylakoids on the membranes of the thylakoids where photosynthesis actually takes place. So you're talking inside a leaf, inside a cell, inside the cytoplasm, inside of the chloroplast, on the thylakoid membrane. That's where photosynthesis is taking place. And then these guys here are your mitochondria. Mitochondria are your powerhouse. This is your energy. All of the energy that your body produces and uses and everything that you use for functioning, that's energy is coming out of these. So this whole, we use cellular respiration for energy and we use food for energy. That none of that gets anywhere and does anything useful until it gets into a mitochondria and gets converted into a molecule called ATP, adenosine triphosphate, and that is our source of energy. And it's super complicated, but it's really cool. So here's a good analogy. Here's your manufacturing plant. You got your nucleus in the middle. This dude's in charge. You got your cell membrane. Here's your nutrients marching in. They don't know where to go. They're walking around over here. And oh, look, you got your manufacturing plant over here. Your ribosomes are spitting out this stuff right here. This is your, it's going to be your protein in this packing plant. So this is probably going to be your Golgi apparatus trying to figure out where things go, sorting it out. But I liked this one in particular, and I couldn't find a high def enough one to really blow it up, but somebody took the time to go through the characters in the office and actually place them in parts of a cell, which is really kind of smart. So like if you've ever watched that show, Who do you think would be in the nucleus? Like, who, yeah, that would be Michael if you've ever watched the show, right? So this is the office manager, right? And then who's in the cytoplasm, who's in the mitochondria. And I couldn't get one big enough where you could see their faces, but it was really creative that somebody had done that. Very smart. So considering what we just said, let's see if we can guess these, figure these out before we wrap up today. So which one's a plant cell and which one's an animal cell? First of all, y'all tell me.
The one on the left is a plant cell
Okay, the one on the left, why?
because of the cell wall.
Is that left or right?
That
Right. One on the right. Yep, one on the right is a cell wall. It has a cell wall. So that's a plant cell. You're right. So we're gonna have an animal cell here and then a plant cell here. So this is pointing to that. Does anybody know what that would be? It's full of little round things, and it's not in the animal cell. Not parasites. These are actual organelles. Where's photosynthesis take place?
Inside.
Inside of that, which is called the chloroplast, right? So you know an animal cell doesn't have it. So this plant cell is going to have it. So this next thing is pointing to this guy right here. And you already pointed that out, Claire. What's this thing around the outside?
cell wall.
That's your cell wall. So you know that's going to be your plant cell. Those are dead giveaways. Now here's something they both have. It's here and here. So what is that? What's that going to be? Yeah, Darcy, what you get?
I think it's like a cell boundary.
Yep, it is. It's the membrane. You're right. Absolutely. That's the boundary. That's perfect. And then look here, are these itty bitty little things. Anybody know what those might be? Just sitting inside the cell like that? So this is a tricky one. Those are the ribosomes. So while they're produced right here on this rough ER, rough endoplasmic reticulum, they get released and they're just kind of all over the place. And they tend to be in little pockets like that. So how about this? Here it is here, and here it is here. And I think it's on my shirt too, like right here. Do you know what that would be? That's going to be mitochondria. So mitochondria is plural, mitochondrion is singular. And very often when they draw them in diagrams, they will draw just like an oval with a zigzag or something kind of like this. So that's what that would represent when you see that. All right, now how about these? We talked about these. It's like a funky little stack of pancakes in there. Do you remember? This is your sorting center. What in cell does all the sorting? It's your Golgi apparatus. It's your funny name. All right. These are your guys that do your sorting and organizing. This is like the mailroom, right? All right. So the next arrow is pointing to these things that are here and here. That would be these guys here. And it's got little bumpies all over it. So that gives you a clue. Little bumpies all over the outside. So here's another very similar one right here and right here, but this one doesn't have bumpies. So they're both endoplasmic reticulum, but one of them is rough and the other is smooth. So what's this one here with all the little bumps? That's gonna be rough. If it has little bumps on it, it's rough. Think of it like sandpaper. Okay, that's your rough endoplasmic reticulum. Those are your ribosomes. It's making them. And then these little guys here, it's not rough endoplasmic reticulum, it's smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Perfect. So what's this right here around the outside of this nucleus? What's that going to be? Yeah, it's what they don't have in prokaryotes. So it's a nuclear membrane, right? Nuclear membrane. So remember, if it's enclosed like this, it's going to be a eukaryote. So anything that's enclosing the membrane is going to be your nuclear membrane. So this is an easy one. What's this pointing to? Here and here. What's that big thing in the middle? Nucleus. Yeah, that's your nucleus in both of them. And then what's the little bullseye in the middle of the nucleus? Do you remember? Similar word. Very similar word.
Nucleus.
Yeah. Nucleolus. Very similar word. Yeah, nucleus and nucleolus.
Oh.
And then lastly, there's a small one in the animal cell, but there's a big one in the plant cell. These are vacuoles. Okay, now here's why. I'm going to tell you why there's a big one in the plant cell. Because once I tell you why, you're never going to forget it. So plant cells have a big central vacuole, usually like one really big one and then some smaller ones. And here's why. You ever seen a plant, like if this is a plant and the sun shines over here, you ever seen the plant bend to the sun, lean towards the sun? Has everybody seen that?
Yeah.
Plants will lean towards the sun. Okay, well, here's
Yeah.
how they're doing it. Now we know why they're doing it, trying to get light, right? The plants aren't thinking, oh, I will bend, they don't have muscles. I will bend my arm that way. They can't do that. So if you've got a plant and it is bending towards the light like this, that's because there are chemicals communicating. It's all chemical communication because there's no brain at work, right? And you've got plant cells on this side and plant cells on this side. And they all have central vacuoles that hold water. The ones on this side will be told to reduce the water in their central vacuoles, and the ones on this side will be told to increase it. So what's going to happen if, pretend it's like a stack of balloons. If these start to deflate and these start to inflate more, what's going to happen to your shape? It's going to bend. Think about it. There's less pressure here and more pressure here, and it's going to cause the whole plant to bend. And that's simply because the water in their central vacuoles is either increasing or decreasing, and it will cause the plant to change its shape. It's pretty cool. And that's called turgor pressure. Like if you ever see a plant that's like really wilted, that's how most of mine look if they're in the house, because I'm terrible. I killed them all. You know, they're all wilty. That's because they lack turgor pressure. They need more water in their central vacuoles. So lastly, multicellular organisms. All right, I put a fig leaf on this guy. He did not come with one.
Oh my goodness.
Be grateful. Be
Oh
grateful. I
my-
could have left him with no fig. Actually, I think I animated that fig leaf. Didn't I animate it? I animated it for the other guys. Oh no, for the other guys, it spun into place really fast. It's kind of funny. So when you're dealing about organization of living things, you start with your atoms and molecules. Molecules come together to make cells. Like cells go together and make tissues. Then like tissues and different tissues will combine to form organs. Organs form systems and systems form organisms, entire organisms. So you have multiple organ systems within your body. Each of those organs is broken down into individual types of tissue. Like if you took your stomach and if you took a slide of stomach lining, you're going to find different kinds of cells in different parts of your stomach lining, from the inside where your food is to the outside where it's muscular. Very different stuff the whole way through. But each of those layers is going to be composed of the same type of cell. So this is another good thing to commit to memory. Atom to molecule to tissue to organ to system to organism. Because that's always going to be the same, even if it's plants, anything multicellular, that's how it works. Cool. We are right spot on time today. So for those of you who aren't here for lab today, watch your groups. They'll give you the data. It should be pretty neat. We're gonna do a little chromatography with plant pigment. Yeah, these two are going.
Someone from my group, please text me the beginning results.
You hear her, Claire? She says text you the information from lab.
Like on the website thing.
Yeah, put it on the forum. Cool. All right, so you guys, hopefully we'll see you next week. Have fun kayaking. Fall in. It's enjoyable according to Drew. It's enjoyable, or at least enjoyable when your sibling falls in and you get to watch, because Drew.
Oh yeah, I'm so gonna the most enjoyable thing is pushing your sibling.
Pushing your sibling in, yeah.
Or bang into them.
Push, but Cole fell in once, and it's still a joke. It's been like 5
Can you
years.
stay on? I
It's
need
still a
witnesses.
thing.
I think he's gonna kill me.
Or banging into her.
Okay, you guys, y'all have a wonderful weekend. We'll catch you guys
Bye.
later.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
If I don't show up
Bye,
in class
Drew.
next time,
Oh,
he has killed me.
Bye, Drew.
Bye, Nessie.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye.
Okay, so how do I end this?